Kaveen goes unresponsive on Andrew, it's a life-threatening situation. Andrew is going to go along and he's going to check his airway, breathing, circulation again. Andrew comes in here and does a special manoeuvre called a jaw thrust. What happens is it lifts up the jaw without extending the head, and basically it takes the tongue up off the back of the throat. And this can happen, yeah, so Andrew is just pushing it pushes your jaw forward. A very, very simple thing to do with any person who's unresponsive. Jim, Andrew's after informing our team leader, Jim, that the child has gone unresponsive. So what happens, the dynamics is after changing now, because this is a very serious and life-threatening injury. As we said about a few minutes ago, children can compensate. So what happens is they normally have a tendency for going down and going down fast. The only place that this child can be actually saved now is inside in the hospital. So we need to get the patient into the hospital as quick as we can. Yeah, okay, so what happens is normally the dynamics of the team change when the person catches the head. The guard is holding the head, so technically he's in charge here now at this moment in time. But every time they move the patient, Andrew's going to assess his airway, breathing and circulation again, and you have to keep assessing it, because what happens at any given stage, this breathing rate could stop. So they're going to move him over there to the ambulance at high speed, get him into the ambulance, and he's going to be moved up to the hospital. When we call into the hospital, what happens is they're going to have a full team on standby. They'll have the doctors, the surgeons, x-ray, basically pediatrics, the whole thing for Kaveen. The thing about this chair is what we would have to do on scene is we'd have to check this chair out. We'd have to look at it and see is it cracked. These are made of high density plastic, and what happens, they'll take a great impact. So when you're looking at the chair, you're looking for any deformities. If there was deformities on this chair, even if the child was sitting up talking to me, I'd be really worried, because if it's enough to break this, it's enough to break something inside of the body. So you can see it there, look, they're nice and hard, but the baby or the child sitting inside them is not as hard. So the lads over here on this side here, they use the scoop stretcher. What happens, they split the stretcher. And the stretcher is a great joke, because what happens is it's great for dealing with people in a tight area. You can open, we normally use it inside in the houses, or you can get somebody off a bed with it and it splits in half. The lads move the person into the middle of the board. The last thing we're going to strap down is the person's head, because normally what happens is when you strap down somebody's head first, as a result of a road traffic accident and a head injury, people can actually have a seizure. So if this person was to have a seizure and we had his head strapped down and his body wasn't strapped down, the force on his body is enough to do damage. And also if he had a cervical injury, what happens, it could actually kill him. Okay. So the thing about it is if he was to have a seizure, Cormac can actually control his head, which is the most important. So we'll go back over to our stable enough patient over here at the moment, so I'll come over here and talk to Brian. Brian, how's your patient doing?
He's doing very well now.
Excellent. So the lads, even in most situations, if you come across somebody in a life-threatening situation like that, as we stated earlier on, the fact that you have, imagine every day of the week when people go to the doctor, and the minute you get out of bed you have a pain, and the minute you walk through the doctor's surgery, what happens to the pain? It disappears, doesn't it? It's psychological. So what happens is in this situation, when you're able to talk to somebody and an ambulance comes along, fellas in the yellow jacket and everything, it's a great psychological boost for the person. They're not feeling alone anymore. I remember one night I went to a road traffic accident. A fellow was trapped inside in a field for 6.5 hours. He was trapped so badly into the car that he couldn't get the phone inside in his pocket. The only injury he had was his broken ankle. But he was so glad to see somebody that we had some crack with him taking him out of the car. It took us 45 minutes to bring him out of the car, the fire brigade. But he was so glad to see somebody, because the feeling of loneliness is absolutely unbelievable. So if somebody's in a life-threatening situation here, always go along, lend a supportive ear, talk to them. Because if you were there on scene for 5 minutes before we arrive, you would be the person I'll be gathering the history of. I will talk to you and I'll ask you how that person was in the last 5 minutes. As you can see, the lads are strapping this man to the board here. We have spider straps, as we call them. If you see them, they're like spider legs, they kind of go all over the place. What happens then is we're going to go along, and Kim is going to start there from the head, and we're going to strap them down to the board. Excellent. So what happens is the coordination of putting them all together. Also, the guards are going to be around at this particular point checking out the vehicles. They'll be looking at the tyres, they're going to be looking at the brakes, maybe, or the road is going to be shut down, especially if there's a fatality involved. You've all come across this in some parts of the travelling through the country, lads. Just to plug inside, lads, down on the other side of the hall below, there's blood pressures going on, and there's things for children's CPR, children's infant choking and all that. Just to reiterate, just if you travel in a car with a child unrestrained, lads, I reckon myself you should be taken straight out the car and brought to jail. End of story. There's no ifs, buts or hows about it. Myself, I come across it, Neves in the road traffic division for years there as well. And what happens, we come across it quite a bit. The child is injured or killed, the parents are screaming and roaring, oh my child, my child, my child, which is fine. But they are the people that are allowing the children to travel with no safety belts in the back. So they are actually responsible for their child's death. I'll say it straight out, I have absolutely no qualms about people's feelings, but that's how we save lives. You go along, you buckle your children into the back of the car, and that's what saves their lives. If you go along and you leave a person floating in the back of the car to become a missile as well, and what happens to that person travelling forward? If you had an accident like this, for argument's sake, and this car here on the right hand side was travelling 60 miles an hour, and that car was travelling 60 miles an hour, that's a total combined speed impact of 120 miles an hour. And remember, in a road traffic accident, there's always 3 bangs. The first bang is the 2 cars hitting. The second bang is your body hitting the inside of the car, and the third bang is all your internal organs hitting your skeletal system. So there's always 3 crashes involved, and that's the thing people forget to think about. When you're dealing with an injury like this at the side, so for argument's sake, if there was a driver in this car here, and this motorbike tears into the side of it here, and it hits him on the right hand side, the thing that's going to be affected, we have no protection down our side, right hand side here. So your liver's around here, your kidneys are here, your lungs are here, and a lot of people. The bigger problem is for the passenger on the other side. What happens in around here is your spleen. If you're all familiar with your spleen, a spleen is a bag of blood basically. And a lot of people die from a road traffic accident as a result of splenic injuries. And what happens, the spleen pops and you bleed to death on the spot. Another injury as well we come across as well is, unfortunately, I know, not talking out of term, but it's a common thing, is neck injuries, and you come across a lot of people with spinal injuries and they break their neck in road traffic accidents. If you ever come across it, unfortunately, it's an amazing thing to see when you go into a car like that. You could have 2 people sitting in the front. The person on the left hand side is perfectly fine and the person on the right hand side is dead. The reason they die is because what happens is they can snap their neck with the force of impact, especially if they're not wearing a safety belt. Another thing, if you see a bullseye on the windscreen, anywhere on the windscreen, you must remember what happened. The lads there, as you can see, in an organised fashion, are loading your man onto the board here. What happens is if you hit your top of your head like that, what happens, they call it a compression injury. What happens is the shock wave travels down through all your vertebrae and actually can do serious damage all the ways down along. So the lads, that's our second patient involved. So the next thing, the third patient involved here. Another thing that we can do as well in the ambulance service, we can do a spinal rule out as well. So if I went along to this man over here, and the fact that now that it might be a low speed impact, I could ask him a certain amount of questions, and if he said to me he had no back pain or anything like that, we can get him to step out of the car and walk towards the ambulance. Andrew, do you want? Oh, okay, so the thing about it here now, Niamh says to me that this man on the motorbike caused the crash. What happens is they have a breathalyzer here, so they're going to go along and they're going to breathalyze your man on the thing. So he's having a shitty, oh sorry, he's in an head day. Sorry about that, lads, I forgot to tell you. My own kids are used to it. Okay, so Niamh is going to go along there, she's going to talk to your man. So hold on a sec, Brian, hold on a sec, we're just going to breathalyze this gentleman. Okay.
Take a deep breath now and blow into this for me till I tell you to stop, okay? Yeah. No, you're not blowing into it right. And that's an offence. Take a deep breath.
I bet you're all checking the text in your car now, aren't you? I'm going to show you.
Alright, take a deep breath. I just blow steadily into it. It's like, okay? That's it. Keep going, keep going.
Okay, our patients just have to have an asthma attack on the bed from going into the Okay, so he's about 27 units over or whatever the case be. No, the poor Miss Foster, thanks very much. No, but you can see what happens at the scene. They have to identify quickly, and things have to be worked about drink driving. There's no excuse in this day and age for drink driving, lads. There's a lot of people being killed in the country as a result of it still to this day. As you can see, we've drafted in young child over there to drive the ambulance for us there today due to cutbacks. He's about 3-4 years, 3 years of age. He's after getting a full license, and you'd never guess that his mammy is the Garda's after breathalyzing somebody. So it's a kind of a family outfit we're going on around here today. Okay, so we're going over to our last patient here now, which is Michael. The lads have the kid on Michael already, and as you can see, it's a long process, isn't it? From start to finish, it takes about 15-20 minutes, but this is a nice quick one. If we had the fire brigade here today, the fire brigades are well trained in they could strip that car down in about 5 minutes first. I mean, strip it down to the accident. They come in with big jaws of life, just cut off the roof, cut down the side panels, and we'd have a full run at the patients. So the lads are loading the patient up into the second ambulance. They're going to load them up. What's happening over here? They've turned the patient around and they have him on the cage. And what happens is, Andrew, will you just get Michael to stand out there for a second? Just stand out. No, just get him to stand out. Just for, now I'm going to get Michael stand out just to show you the kid on Michael here, lads. Look, he looks like a bit of a mummy going around the place, okay? But Michael, okay, so if you could come out here and see Michael, okay? Come out along, Michael, I'll just talk through this. This is a great thing here. He looks traumatised, doesn't he? But he's really enjoying it, okay? So what happens, we have multiple straps here, and we have straps around the groin. If you notice that Michael, his head is in line, sorry Michael, his head is in line with his chest, if you turn around there, Michael, what happens, this is like a backboard, it's a strong backboard, and what we have is handles on it. If you've ever tried to lift anyone off the ground who's unconscious, it's like trying to lift a bag of water. So basically what happens is these handles here work as leverage for us. So if I have Michael inside the car, in one failed movement, I can catch him and pull him straight out. I don't have to worry about it at all. And this surface here too as well will slide on the spinal board as well. Okay, that concludes our road traffic accident, and I'd like to thank you for taking your time to give us a few minutes here to watch on. And I'd like to give a round of applause to the casualties, lads, and thanks very much.